Let's start with England then, shall we? England are through to the semi-finals of the Euros for a second consecutive tournament, thanks to a win on penalties over Switzerland at the weekend. Steve, you were there, weren't you? We were on the brink of going out again, and once more we made hard work of it, but we got there.
Never in doubt. It was. Yeah, the second half was hard work. I thought first half we were kind of fine, really. Neither side created anything of any note, but I think it's just two reasonably well balanced teams, kind of matched up quite tightly against each other. I think Switzerland had looked decent enough in the group stage, although kind of have to temper it with the fact that they failed to beat Scotland, which should be held against anybody, I think, given the way they performed in the other two games. But I thought, once I got the penalties, kind of weird sort of paradox that actually I was entirely confident that we were going to win that shootout.
Really?
Relatively comfortably, yeah. Because you could name before the shootout started, you could name the 5 that we were going to pick, and they all take penalties regularly for their clubs. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you go back to the Euro final, Saka wasn't taking them for Arsenal at the time. Sancho definitely wasn't taking them for Borussia Dortmund. Never took the one for Man United either. So you already Maguire scored his, but that could have gone anywhere. That could have ended up in orbit as well. Whereas now those 5 that take them all take them for their clubs, and you kind of didn't like it. Everyone sort of gets sort of worked up about the technique of sort of taking ages and doing like a little stuttery run up and all this. But I'm sure I read a news article where they cited some study had been done where actually the longer you take to take your penalty, the higher the chance of scoring. And I definitely saw an article on Sunday where they worked out that basically Switzerland only took about 2 seconds from the whistle to actually taking their penalties, whereas we took on average about 5 or 6. So there's definitely something in that. But everyone just looked supremely confident. Didn't look like anyone was suffering any sort of nerves or anything like that. And you'd have certainly forgiven Bukayo Saka from feeling them, given what happened at Wembley. But absolutely. Same with the other 4, never in doubt, really, I thought. And Akanji's penalty was rubbish, and it was the one rubbish penalty of the 4 that Switzerland took. And basically, as long as Pickford guessed the right way, that was going to be a comfortable save. So once he'd made that save, it's like, well, just do your job, lads. And we're home and hosed.
And how was the atmosphere at the end? Because obviously Gareth Southgate's had a bit of criticism, hasn't he? They were chucking empty pints at him a couple of games ago, but I'd imagine that was all out the window, and it was a carnival atmosphere.
Well, there was a lot of stick flying around the moment Switzerland scored, because at that point, 15 minutes to go in normal time, you're kind of thinking, well, tournament future's on the line here, and we'd kind of done that second half thing of not really getting out of our half. But in fairness, the 3 subs changed the system around a little bit and gave us a bit more balance and a bit more impetus. So he got it right, and we got the equaliser pretty quickly. But the atmosphere at the end obviously was great. Strangely, nobody moaning about winning the game after all of that. But there are still a lot of concerns in terms of the stodginess, I think, of parts of the play. Although I thought we were much better on Saturday than certainly in the Slovakia game. Although that was a pretty low bar to get over. But yeah, it's about the kind of speed of the interactions has been the problem. And I thought certainly first half we were a lot better at that. The system seemed to be a little bit more balanced. Still with Trippier on the left-hand side offering not a huge amount, although he did noticeably get forward about 10, 20 yards further, which I think probably made a bit of a difference. But Shaw coming on towards the end there made such a huge difference, because all of a sudden we actually had a fullback that was testing their fullback by going on the overlap and offering options. Whereas obviously with Trippier we didn't have that before. And I think that kind of opened things up, because the ball came from the left, we got switched it across to the right, and all of a sudden Saka's in a little bit more space, and we've kind of opened the game up a little bit for ourselves, and Saka fortunately has done the business from the edge of the area. But yeah, I mean, I think there's still question marks, but at the end of the day, we're still in the tournament. Defensively, we still look pretty solid. I mean, Switzerland had one half chance right at the very end where can't remember who it was. Somebody took a diving header off of Akanji, I think it was, and he basically had a free header if his teammate hadn't got in the way. So we got away with that one a little bit. But other than that, I mean, Sommer's the only keeper that's had a proper tough save to make. Pickford had one straight at him, and Sommers had the one from Rice in extra time. So, I mean, it was always going to be a tight game, I think. And when you've got the players with the sort of individual quality, and we've got so many quality penalty takers, you do give yourself the chance when the game goes as deep as that.
I want to talk about the penalties a bit more in detail later. Glenn, in a way, this is the podcast that we thought we would never have to do, because I don't think any of us thought that we would win. And then we are like last minute panic, go, oh Christ, we better go and we better chat about the game. But there's a few bits there. There was that shift to the back three, which I think we spoke about last time, didn't we? And then Konza obviously coming in for Gehi and playing really well. So they set up slightly differently, and to a degree it worked.
I definitely think it worked. It helps a lot. Konza coming in for Gay was absolutely seamless. I thought he had an excellent game. I think Gay will come back in, for the next game. But Konza did a very, very good job, and he only came off because of the the fact that we had conceded a goal and we needed to get more attacking players on the pitch. So he had a good game. But switching to the back three, it just seemed to move the entire. Steve's already touched on the fact that it pushed Trippier higher up the pitch, and that seemed to. I mean, it was a little bit lopsided still, obviously, because you've got a right back playing on the as a left wing back, and you've got a right winger playing as the right wing back, so it's always going to be a little bit lopsided. But it made the whole team better, particularly when we didn't have the ball. We were able to press Switzerland a lot higher in their half, and that was a big part in the fact that they didn't really create anything until we went more open ourselves at the end. So there were definite positives. There was still when we had the ball, we still had the same problems that we've had in the other games: not playing quick enough, not enough movement, sometimes not having a player up front. But Saka had a great game out in the wing. He had their fullback on toast. The thing was, every time we went past him, he pulled the ball back, and there was no one in there. So there was still issues. Harry Kane was doing a good job, sort of closing people down, but he can't. He's not fit enough to do both. He can't be running around closing people down all the time and be in the box. He just doesn't look fit enough to me, with the injury he had at the tail end of the season at Bayern Munich. So yeah, I thought the switch to three at the back definitely made us more solid. It's a bit like Saints at the end of the season, to be honest. It made us more solid. It got us further up the pitch, and yeah, that was definitely the right thing for Southgate to do. He had to do something. The substitutions. I mean, you can argue the substitutions two ways. I thought we started losing control of the game about 10 minutes before Switzerland scored. So I would have thought that was the time to make the substitution. So you can argue it both ways. You can either say he was playing for 120 minutes, so he left the substitutions as late as possible, or you could say he was paralysed, didn't do anything, and only made the substitutions when the goal had gone in, and we had 10 minutes to save ourselves, sort of thing. So you can argue it both ways, but especially now, results are everything. I think we'd all like England to play better. You'd all like us to play better in open play, and you see these players that you see doing fantastic things in the league every week, and think we could get a bit of that on the pitch for England. But I think we have to accept that that's not really going to happen. And it's the old thing, style of football. If you're getting results, you'll get away with it. If you're not getting results, then there's not a lot of love left in people if they feel you're
Oh,
not.
it's the Allardyce situation, isn't it? You put up with it for as long as he's getting the results that keep you in the right place. But as soon as it all kind of falls apart and you're losing as well as playing miserably, then time to go.
So the team play isn't quite there, but we do have these fantastic individual players, and that's why Bellingham's goal got us through against Slovakia, because he did something ridiculous. And then, as Steve said, when it goes to the penalties, you look at the players we've got.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've got some exceptional penalty takers. I mean, Kane didn't even take one, and you've got Cole Palmer, who I don't think has ever missed. You've got Ivan Toney, who's just ridiculous. And we
I don't know how Tony's I don't know how Tony's thing works. It's insane.
It's going to be very.
He never looked at the ball.
No, it's going to be very, very amusing to see people at local league level trying to do that and falling over or whatever. There's like in my son's
swing and a miss.
There's certainly going to be people trying to do that, and I'm here for it. I hope they do. But
there were lots of other little bits though, Glenn, with the penalties, and I've seen a few bits online about this. Like obviously Pickford and his little routine that he has. We also his water bottle as well, and then just things like I think after the first penalty, John Stones walking out of the centre circle, welcoming the player back, and making sure that they had the ball as they walk up. It just seems like the whole environment around those penalties was a lot more thought out, and you could tell there'd been a lot of work going on behind that.
It's kind of marginal gains, isn't it? At the end of the day, whether a player greets you when you come back or doesn't, if you can't take a penalty, it doesn't really matter, does it? But it certainly probably made us feel that we were all together in the whole thing, and that there wasn't going to be a situation where I think someone mentioned Marcus Rashford when he missed in the Euros final before. He had like a 50-yard walk back on his own with the whole country staring at him, sort of thing. So they wanted to avoid that, so at least you have some sort of support. It's about looking after people at the end of the day, isn't it? So I mean, Jordan Pickford is the ideal goalkeeper to have for a penalty shootout, because he's I mean, you probably can't hear him, but he's going to be mouthing off. He's going to be fidgeting around and being as big a pain in the arse as he possibly can be. And that's another thing that gives you the
It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, you've only got to look at but then Pickford's nothing to what Emi Martinez is for Argentina. I mean, he should actually be sent off for some of the stuff that he does. But I was very, very confident that Pickford was going to save one. And when I looked at our penalty takers, I thought, I just can't see any of them missing. The only one I was worried about was Saka, and that was because of history.
Yeah.
And as Steve said, he's been taking them regularly for Arsenal now. So for a couple of years, I think. So, much more confident in him as a penalty taker. So
did you see someone's mocked up Peter Shilton's water bottle from Italia 90? Did you see that one online?
Yes.
With the fall to the left, fall to the right, drop to one knee and look baffled. One of the funniest things I've seen this week. I mean, Steve, it kind of comes back to, we only had that one shot on target again. What was the atmosphere when we went behind? Did you think, right, that's it, or is there that thought that we've got the players that can produce that moment of magic, i.e. Bellingham or Saka, and we're still in this till the end?
I mean, there's a bit of both. I mean, I think when you go behind as late as we did with 15 minutes to go, you do kind of think, oh, have we pushed this a little bit too far now against decent opposition? But I mean, it was weird. The Slovakia one was the one where I thought, sort of the later it got, I just thought we could be here all night and we're not going to score it. But I think given the changes that were made, that were so obviously right, this is kind of hit or bust, isn't it? You either get yourself back into it or you're done. You probably get done the break, and you probably lose 2-0.
Yeah.
But the subs worked in terms of the system reshuffle. Shaw actually looked like the one player on the entire pitch who had some energy, which bodes well for Wednesday, I think. And yeah, I think I think a lot of people would have, certainly a lot of people around me were obviously pretty fed up at 1-0 down, because, as you say, that goal kind of felt like it had been coming for 5 or 10 minutes. But I mean, never let it be said that football fans are fickle, and obviously, as soon as the equaliser goes in, everyone's fine again, and what were we worried about?
Certainly fickle.